Welcome to Auntie K's, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hello everyone, welcome to Auntie K's. Welcome to a new calendar year. It's interesting, isn't it? I think for a lot of us who are watching this channel, we probably recognize more than one new year. We recognize the society we're living in having like a start over a new year right now. And we have time and space and activities for it. A lot of us, like myself, probably also celebrate a natural new year that will be coming up sometime between now and March 21st. I don't know if people have any that start a little bit later. If you do, let me know in the comments. For our family, the new year is when the maple sap starts to run. And so that is usually mid-March, coming close to the solstice, but usually before it and usually more in sync with a moon, which is the Sweetwater moon. And that will be the start of the new year, although some people recognize, I know some indigenous people who will recognize the new year as the return of the thunders, which usually comes a little bit later, more into April. All right, various New Year stuff. But as we're sitting in this calendar year and we're talking about these things today, a lot of us are talking about the shift from the year of the Hierophant, based on this calendar year that we just completed of 2021 and coming into 2022, the year of the lovers. And so we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about it using the Land Back Tarot and coming at it from a decolonial perspective. We're going to talk about my year for 2021. I chose a word of the year, which was worthy. And unsurprisingly, I had a huge Pence journey in my tarot journey this past year. And so I'm also going to talk about, I have chosen a card. I've chosen a court card this year as an energy to embody. And I'll talk about why and how that plays into the lovers. So like, comment, and subscribe. And let's get into this. Do comment. I do enjoy engagement. Also, check out the description box where you're going to find out how to engage with me in a more community-like setting via Discord, my Patreon, and I'm also on Instagram. All right. Oh, and of course, you can book me for tarot readings. So, 2021 was the year of the Hierophant. I went looking through my collection for a fairly traditional Hierophant, and I came up here with the High Priest. So I'm just making sure we get a bit of an image of that before we get into the Land Back Tarot, and we're going to talk about all of that. Okay, so the year of the Hierophant. I've done a video on the 5s and 7s in tarot. It's under Oracles of Colonization, and you can check it out. But the Hierophant is the instrument through which we are trained to uphold the state via morals. So whether you attend church or not, this morals of this Euro-Western society are set by the church. And the morals you hold, even if you're like, oh, but like, I'm not a racist and I'm not homophobic, and even if all that, a lot of the morals you uphold come from an Abrahamic understanding, and largely Christian understandings, in the West. And it impacts your sense of morality more than you know. And it's through that you that we uphold the state. And so when I think about the Hierophant, I think about our need to question the moralities that that are normalized for us, that we might inherently uphold. And the shadow for this, in the Lamback Tarot, we have the charlatan. And so we understand a charlatan in a spiritual sense, but in upholding the state, Indigenous folks, and this was true for world Indigenous folks outside Turtle Island or North America, there are micro elites. Fannin has talked about this. Read Fannin. There are micro elites. You could black skin, white mask. You can also read Coulthard, red skin, white mask, and but read a bunch of Fannin. You'll get an understanding of this. And so we have these micro elites, faux chiefs and academically created elders who uphold the state and make you feel morally good about the decisions the state is making about Indigenous people in the colonial lands you live on, whether it's here in North America or elsewhere. My shadow card to the Hierophant is polite, and we have a Karen. The patriarchy protects Karen. The church protects Karen. They also abuse Karen, but they also protect Karen. It's a bizarre relationship, but politeness. Politeness protects morality. It protects the state normalized morality of the Hierophant. So, the other half of the majors, right? When you get into the double digits, people look at them two ways. Some people say the number ending on that card is related. So 5, the Hierophant, would be 15, the devil. And other people say you add it up like numerology. So the devil is 6, the lovers. So, and we do see the devils and the lovers, a reflection of them in each other. I sort of think of them like 5.5, 6.5. Anyway, I think that kind of really works, actually. And because, it numerology, it kind of works too. So I think of it like a 0.5. So we're going to talk about the 0.5s. So the devil. We have an Indigenous person choking out a priest, showing the choking out of these imposed, toxic, oppressive moralities like, heteronormativity, patriarchy, white supremacy, all these things upheld by the church. Self-hatreds, all these things. So they're choking it out. They're recognizing, that they need to question the morality they're held with. And so I'm also inferring that the church is the devil, and likewise, systemic, everything systemic racism, the systemic desecration of the earth, all of it, systemic things are all part of that, and they uphold the state. They uphold it through a morality, because systemic things are what make us say that it's just how it happens. It's just how it works. It must just work out that way for a reason. It's, you know, well, Indigenous people all live in poor housing. That's somehow their fault. If Black people are getting shot by police, if Indigenous people are getting shot by police, that must mean it's their fault. They must have done something wrong. They must not have acted polite enough. Systemic hides things and upholds the oppressions of the state. And so the Lover's card. We all know if you get in a reading to do with love, it probably has something to do with love. But a really important lesson of love is, of course, the choices we make. And, any queer person has experienced this imposed morality. This imposed morality that told them they had to be heterosexual. And that fight against the morality society and, systemic bigotry and the church and polite society told us we had to be heterosexual. And, and this card also stands for marriage. And you have to make a choice in the Lovers. You have to make a choice about, is this person beside you who society says needs to be beside you? Or is it the right choice for you? The Lovers is where we choose to deny ourselves and have either heterosexual relationships or heteronormative relationships. Or where we examine, what is our true choice? What is true love for us? What is the perfect, ideal relationship for us? This is where we choose our own morality outside of the system. Where we tell Karen, fuck you, righteous rage. And we burn those systems down. And if the choices we make in love remain shadowed by the high priest, we face internalized racism. The sixes we see in the minors are also about choices where we choose, between the system's morality and our own personal morality. And the Six of Arrows, we make choices to get to victory. And in those choices, we really had to question morality. And what morality is. What is morality? We have to question what is morality. What is ethical? We question that when we win and when we lose. When we look into the past, and we see the past choices that led here, we have to face morality in how we see those choices. Are we going to whitewash them? Are we going to look back at them with this like golden wash that, you know, everything was, you know, perfect? Are we going to say we got here because that's just a natural path of humanity? Or are we going to question the choices that led us here? And the Six of Swords or weapons, you know, morality, ethics, who to listen to. And that's something I talk about in the Charlatan and in the Hierophant. You need to think about who you're listening to. In the Six of Weapons, in the Six of Swords, you need to move to a safer place. But that journey isn't necessarily safe. It's not necessarily, you're not necessarily in safe hands. You have to question who to listen to. You have to take risks. And so that's where we see that in the Six of Sevens. So that's where we see that in the Six of Swords or weapons. And we see this heavily in the Tower, right? Who are we going to listen to strike that tower, to get out of harm's way as we head to the star, 6.5. And the Six of Drums or coins or pence, we have to question morality and ethics when we question our resources, our distribution of resources, financial resources, connection resources, between our connections with other people, our resource to give emotionally to people, to give time to people, to give space to people, to give financial resources to people, to give safety and security to people. And we have to question our own morality in how we have done this. And have we done this in a good way? Are we doing this in a good way? Do we need to start doing this in better ways? You know? It's like when you figure out that you've been giving to charities or orgs all this time and you're mostly supporting people like in big corporations when you could have been giving, you know, more directly to mutual aid, directly to groups on the ground in the grassroots doing something. But you keep giving to secondary parties, to parties who are like, I'm going to get your money to those poor brown people you want to help, to those distressed indigenous people's group you want to support. You can pass it to me because, you know, you can trust me because I'm white. And then you realize that's what you've been doing. You know, you've been giving to Red Cross, you've been giving to weed charities, you've been, you know, giving to some white mutual aid group that's passing money on to indigenous groups or black groups for you. You know, you've been giving money to the church, Salvation Army, to help out poor people at Christmas, many of whom are queer or in, you know, got partners in jail, and yet the Salvation Army is petitioning the governments, you know, and anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ stuff, anti-two-spirit stuff. They're pro-prisons. Like, you know, you figure out you've been giving your money to the wrong place. That's a really good example. And then you know, start questioning the morality of what you understood, because, like, you thought that's how you did charity, and then you have to start questioning charity versus mutual aid. That's a 6 of coins. And that's absolutely like the Lovers, right? So another interesting aspect of looking at tarot and the tarot numbers, which is what we're doing when we're looking at like the card based on the number of the year 2022, right? So another interesting aspect of that is we look at how we get to numbers, right? 5 is 4 plus 1, or 2 plus 2 plus 1. It's frequently 4 plus 1, and 4 plus 1 makes sense because 4 is the Emperor, and then 1, the Hierophant, who makes this, it possible, who's got the tools, the morality, to magically make it possible because they make people believe in it. Anyway, so 6 is 3 plus 3, or 2 plus 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 plus 2. And so that's really interesting about 2022, is we've got 3 2s in 2022. It takes 3 2s to make the 6. So what happens if you have 3 high priestesses, or 3 healers, right? Like, what happens when you have 3 high priestesses or 3 healers? That makes 6 really powerful. That makes 6 really powerful against the forces of Christianity, the forces of white supremacy, the forces of the patriarchy. It makes it really powerful against those things. It makes the Tower possible. Do you think this is the year that, the colonial states fall? I'm not predicting that. I think we're in the time that leads to their fall, but I think it's a long process, and somebody sometime in history will determine the date of this civilization's fall. Long after it happens, they'll hit the pinpoint. They will most likely say COVID was a part of it. COVID will most likely play a role in how white supremacists, capitalist supremacy, capitalist colonialism falls. COVID will probably play a role on how capitalist colonialism falls, how colonialism falls, but it's going to take a long time. We know that from looking at other civilizations. It's going to take us looking back and making choices about morality and how we fight back. It's going to take choices of mutual aid and moving people out of unsafe places to places that maybe aren't necessarily safer, but bring folks together. So this is a year where we make choices about those things that will set those coming years into motions. We make choices between the year of the Hierophant and this year. And something interesting that I think about moving from the year of the Hierophant to this year. So, we've all experienced, that societies are split on vaccinating and not vaccinating, lockdown and not having lockdowns, quarantines and not having quarantines, masking and not masking. And those of us who feel, that, individualism is a toxic part of white supremacy, and believe in, making choices for the whole and choices for the community and choices in community responsibility. We've supported doing these things because they're things we would naturally do and choices we would naturally make. We don't need to be told to stay home if we're possibly going to spread the COVID virus, because community responsibility, we don't want to do that. We're going to get vaccinated because community responsibility, we want to protect people. We're going to wear masks because community responsibility, we want to protect people. There's going to come a clash or a head this year as we switch from the Hierophant into that, because the community responsibility hasn't been too far out of line with some of the actions that governments have been making. But it's going to go too far this year. That's a prediction I will make. And we're going to find people confused about who they're listening to. Largely because the people who are against lockdowns are white supremacy. And white supremacy, backlash. White supremacy is going to grow as much as, the fight for the earth and and the marginalized is going to grow. Psychic awareness is a thing that's going to happen through the next few months, just like it did in 2019 going into 2020. And, both sides tap into that. And the other side does spiritual warfare to strengthen themselves over the marginalized and over other races. And those of us standing against supremacy and where's my other card? And those who uphold supremacy, those of us who stand against it, we need to be aware that they fight in the spiritual realm, that they might win, that those forces might win. And we need to be aware of that. And question how we're fighting. These are going to be really important themes in the coming year. Because this is a year where we choose sides as a tinder is gathered. As a tinder is gathered. People who can and will switch sides throughout, but this will be a year of choosing sides. The lovers. Not choosing the easy path that society says you should choose, but really questioning it, upending yourself and your understandings and your beliefs. Like, you have to do this first. Because all this stuff has to be ripped down. And this stuff has to be ripped down. And, all those things need to be ripped down. They need to be ripped down. In yourself. In ourselves first. They need to be ripped down in ourselves first. So it's going to be a long process. But I think in all of that, it is a powerful year much more powerful year for those using earth-based practices, using indigenous practices, using pagan practices, using magical practices. This year is far more powerful for all of us than 2021 was. Like, Christianity and supremacy and that spirituality held a lot more power last year, which was hard after like 2020 being this awakening, and then 2021, and you know, like, supremacy gets this like power boost to their spirituality. This year we get a power boost to like all the other spiritualities. It's our power boost. Come together in circles. Come together in circles, so that you can at the very least equal 6. 2 plus 2 plus 2. So those are my thoughts on the numerology of the year. And now let's get into what I chose. I chose a card for the year this year, and I chose the Warrior of Drums, or the Knight of Coins or Pence. This is an energy of discernment. This is an energy of looking carefully before moving forward. Works so well with this energy of making the right choices and questioning those moralities and going in different directions. And so this is an energy that's also methodical. And I want this energy in my spirituality and in my work ethics. And there's a huge overlap for me in those two things. And in my work choices and how I go, I want to move with this energy. I want to embody this. This is a heavy earth energy for me. I have no earth, planets, asteroids, points. But my earth signs are in earth houses. So I do have the ability in the areas I'm really looking for to really tap into that. They're methodical. And then, you know, coins and drums is also a very spiritual suit. And so that crossover of work and spirituality, I think, is really on point. And, you know, I want to walk before I run or fly or find a place to sit. So nights, I'm in ready for that night stage. I feel I embodied a lot of page energy in this suit last year, as the word worthy took me through a really heavy coins, pence, drums journey. So I feel like this is also really appropriate progression. And I wanted to take the lessons of last year for myself and grow them. I didn't want to just be like, awesome, checklist, new set. I want to like be like, awesome, let's grow this. And at one point I was like, 9 of Pence, abundance, but like methodical. I don't want to run. I want to get every step. I want to learn this thoroughly. That's something I learned about self-worth, is that I don't need that instant gratification, which as a Gemini is something I really struggle to overcome. So, the Warrior of Drums, the Knight of Coins, the Knight of Pence. I'm going to embody this methodical energy this year. And I am really interested at the lessons in it, because I'm a Gemini. But this is my year. I have my people. you know, I am so ready for this. And I hope all of you are too. I hope we are all ready for a magical undoing, a spiritual stand up in and slapping back at, you know, the forces of supremacy that really had a spiritual boost last year. And this is our year to shine and to like plant those seeds and to be aware of what we're standing up against and the power they hold and what they wield and how they enact their supremacy in societal ways and moralistic ways, in spiritual ways. We really do need to be aware of that, people. And you know, in financial ways, in state ways, in environmental ways. And we need to be making those choices in awakening this year. All right, I am going to see you all throughout the year, and I look forward to more and further deeper connections. Like I said before, check out my description box to interact with me on community levels and to book readings, and like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos. I talk about the fives in a video about the fives and sevens in oracles of colonization. So you can watch that too as like a before and after look at where we are right now in this year in 2022. See you all later, folks. Happy New Year's.